Good morning. Hope everyone's doing great or better. It's now 10 o'clock. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So we'll welcome, our official welcome everyone. And real quick, I want to just go around so we have an opportunity to know where everyone is from or what exactly they are here to do. So we're going to go around and do your name, your school affiliation, and your school, the location of your school, and also your position. So I'm John Wosu. I am from Georgia Southern University, located in Statesboro, Georgia, and I am this year's president for the 2015-2016 school year. And we just started here, work our way around.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Willie J. Thompson. Most recent graduate of the Howard University, welcome to our wonderful law school campus in our beautiful city. I serve as the Vice President of Marketing and Outreach for the Nation's Premier Research NCO, Nation's Premier Resource for Graduate Students, part of the Student Association. I'm happy to welcome you all here and have Howard University and have these posters.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Stevie. I am from Green State University. I serve as the volunteer.
Go ahead. You're good.
I am Pedro I am currently talking to him now. I look forward to working with you guys. Previous salutations, I am King Williams from the Grambling State University. I humbly serve as the 2015-2016 year for the National Graduate Student Association and also
and I am currently enrolled at Auburn University, and I am.
My name is Michael Cobb. I'm a recent alum of the Georgia State University, Baltimore, Maryland. Yes. My position is Northeast.
Johnson, and I'm the vice president of NBGSA, and I'm so excited for the
We got like a minute. All right, so I'm glad to have each and every one of you here today. I look forward to the opportunity to get to know more about all of you, and for you all to get to know more about each other. So what I want to really go over real quick is just some things that we talked about yesterday. I want to give an opportunity for the people who were here to coordinate things and clarify things, to also chime in. So I also want to share a little bit about what I have, insights that I have, or things that I have in terms for my vision and mission for the organization, and a little bit about my leadership style. So, vision to build a legacy by connecting the past, present, and future. From a lot of conversations that we've had over the years, and from my experience in the organization and many different organizations, this is something that is challenging. I think that it's kind of hard, especially when you've been in a space for a while, after you've had to work so hard to get in that space, to leave that space, and allow someone else to step in and take the lead. And so, and sometimes we fumble over transition, whether it's in an organization or whether it's generations within our families. We don't always get to pass things down. We don't always, if we're the ones receiving the stuff, we don't always get on it. So I really want to focus more on creating that legacy. I think as long term as possible. When we went to Baltimore last week, I was there for a planning for a community organizing conference. One of the things that they said is that some of the schools in that area, Johns Hopkins, for instance, that they have 20, 40, 60, maybe even 100-year plans. And I think that if we, especially if we're talking about Black people, we're talking about issues that affect Black graduate students, but also our community as a whole, I think that's the type of planning that we have to move. We have to be able to think as far ahead as possible, not just tomorrow, not just 5 years or 10 years, but into the future in terms of what are our kids going to do, what are our future family members going to do. We have to be able to think generationally ahead. So that's what comes to mind when I think of legacy, right? And then connecting the past, present, and future. If we don't have that continuity, it's going to be difficult for us to do that. All right. As far as my mission, I want to establish the blueprint for Black graduate excellence, right? So, what comes to mind when you hear that? When you hear blueprint or when you hear that whole phrase, like what comes to mind? Layout. Excuse me? A plan. Right? Anyone else? Foundation. Anyone else? That's pretty much. So, okay, cool. So when I think of, first of all, when I say we, I think really sets the tone. And we have a few other people like Kenneth, who, like you said, at home and Randall. I come from the Second City University. I hail from the, and when you hear that, it's like, yo, I don't know, when I hear that, it strikes something in me. I don't know what, it strikes something in me, but when I think that, what I think you are trying to say is that this is something extra. This is something that is premier, right? It's the one and only, or it's the best, right? And so I want us to get to the point where whatever blueprint we build is the one that everyone goes to, right? It's the one that people feel like this is the information I need to move forward to help me get to the space that I want to get to that's best for me and the people that I love, right? So that's the first piece, right? And I also want to make sure that we're clear that that's a continuous process. This is a living, breathing type of thing. So all of that is in that statement. And as far as blueprint, when I think of blueprint, I think of anytime you're building something, I just want to make sure I'm good on something. You got it. Yeah, I got you. But yeah, so when I think of blueprint, when you're building, if you are the architect, if you're the person that's building something, I think you have something, a document, like you draw it out first, right? It starts in your head, right? You think about it, you have a vision in mind in your head, then you transfer that vision to paper, you draw that out, right? And then before you start building, you check everything. You run through it, you make sure that it's exactly what you need, all of the dimensions are correct, right? As best as you can project, because you can't really know until you start building, right? But it starts with that blueprint. That's the foundation of anything that you create if you are building something. And as you start building, you might realize that you're off on a few things because theory is very different from practice, right? There's some similarities, there's some overlap, but it's not the same as when you actually apply something. So, right, when I think of the blueprint, that's where it starts, right? That's when you go back to, right? You build something, right? You realize the dimensions are off a little bit, so you go back to the blueprint, you make some adjustments and try again. Right? So when I think of blueprint, that's what comes to mind. And so, with respect to us, and with respect to Black graduate excellence, excelling above whatever our expectations are, above and beyond those, I think that we have that document that we refer to, right? Before we step foot towards whatever goal we're chasing or whatever thing we're trying to realize. We have that basic document that says, these are the steps that you need to take. And as you begin to take those steps, right, you refer to the document to make sure that everything is on. And if you realize that you missed that, you correct that in the document so that the next time someone else grabs that blueprint, they don't have to go through the same mistake that you did, unless they don't follow it. Everybody has the choice to try and error, to try and find out for themselves. Everyone learns differently. So that's what comes to mind when I say I want to create that blueprint. All right. So about my approach to leadership, any questions, comments, or concerns? Anything y'all want to add? Please, I welcome that. All right. And then the next thing is, this is kind of like just my mantra, right? Clarify, simplify, empathy. All right. If there's a message, like you remember playing telephone when you were like younger, and you had a clear message in the beginning, but somewhere along the way it got messed up. And by the time it got to the end, no one knew what you were talking about. Like every single time, it could be something like this, like 5 letters long. You'd be like, it's hot outside. And then by the time it gets to the end, it's like, man, it's so cold outside. Like, how did that happen? So I think that it's really important to clarify our message first and foremost, because we're going to be talking to a lot of different people. So whatever it is that we're doing, whatever we want to make happen, I think it's really important to clarify that first. Get as clear as we can as possible. Next, want to simplify it. I know I can be wordy, I can be verbose, right? But sometimes that's necessary. How can we say what we need to say? How can we do what we need to do in the fewest words possible and in the fewest steps possible, right? And then once we do that, once we begin to create that way of doing and being and saying things, then we can amplify. We can spread that out to our chapters, right? We can begin to grow as an organization once we create that consistency. Once we systematize that process, we can spread that out. And I think that that's the type of approach that I like I said, that's my mantra. That's not just what I'm applying to NBGSA, but I'm trying to apply that to all areas of my life. So about my approach to leadership, in case you don't know, for those of you that are new, I'm very process oriented. That's one of my main focuses. And so if you look on that first page of your agenda, right? Those themes, that's pretty much how, that's my approach. That's my approach very much. And so when you think personhood, who, right? Who are we as a group? Who are we individually? Purpose, why are we here together? What made you want to come? Like, why are you here individually? Position, where are we now? Where do we want to go? Right? Process, how are we going to get there? And that, like I said, that's one of the key pieces. But before we can get there, there are certain other things that I think are important. And I like to balance that out with everyone because everyone doesn't necessarily feel exactly the same way. So that was a lot of what yesterday was about, making sure that we can get on the same page so that today we all can make sure that together we're making the most effective use of our time. So the produce, when you hear produce, what do you think of? So what are you producing? But I specifically said produce because I think that it's important to recognize and respect processes. If you try to plant some food today, no matter how hard you work, no matter how hard you try, you will not have that. If you try to plant a seed today, the apple seed will not have that tomorrow. But the process involved. So I like to have respect for those things as much as possible. And so if you plant in the spring, you will harvest in the fall. That's just the way it is. Right? So there are some things that we cannot change. And as much as we respect those processes, they can help us grow and develop as an organization. There are other things I acknowledge that I like the process. I acknowledge that, right? So what are those things that we absolutely need to respect? What are those essentials? And then what are those things that if we have extra time we can get to? Right? What are the essentials? Let's figure out what those are, and then the other stuff, if we have more time, we can get to. All right. And then produce is also, what is it that we're producing? What are our products? What are our services? What are the things that we're offering to our stakeholders, to our investors, the people who invest time, energy, trust, money? What are the things that we're producing for them? And then pay, right? When are we supposed to get there? Like, have you all ever heard that quote? A goal is just a dream with a date. So if we don't, in every single thing that we do, if we don't have a projection of where we want to get, right? It's just something for us to aim, right? It's something for us to strive for. But if we don't have that date, it's going to be a lot more difficult for us to do effective and get something ready to put our energy together. All right. So I think it's important to also recognize the power of the head knowledge, like what you learn in books, but also experiential knowledge. Right, there are some things that just feel differently. Like when Rachel DeLozo talks about being black, she has a lot of head knowledge. When she talks about being African American, she's read a lot of books. But there are some things that she just can't understand because she's not been through the experience. Right, and so I think it's important that we give value to both of those things. All right, we all come from different backgrounds. We make meaning from our experiences in different ways. Right, and we don't always agree or see things from the same perspective. A lot of times we assume that we're on the same page, but really, that's not the case. So we could be talking about the same word, like black, for instance, right? But you could be thinking crayon, you could be thinking marker, I could be thinking person, right? So it's when I check in, I'm just making sure we're on the same page a lot of times, right? And then I also want to make sure I'm doing my part in creating an equitable space where everyone can be heard. Everyone's opinion can be respected and considered in the process as much as possible. All right, and then also we all know things that other people don't, and others know things that we don't. Right, so that's why it's really important to pull for me. It's really important to pull from everyone. And this last piece is that we all have responsibility to be accountable to the people who invest in us. So, like I said, that's not just money, right? But that's trust, time, energy, right? So if you think about that, who are some people that come to mind? People who have invested in you. Oh, record. Yeah. What? With the teacher. Going up? Here. Anyone else? What about each other? You all have invested a lot of time to come here, a lot of trust to think that it's something that's worth your time and energy and money, right? Our members, our general body, these are our investors, as I see it. Another way to think of it is stakeholders, right? And so these are all people who have, like I said, invested something in us. Trust, time, energy, money, etc. All right. And so our investors are valuable. We have to make sure that they feel that way. We have to make sure we're doing things that make them feel like we appreciate your time, we appreciate your energy, we appreciate everything that you've done, your money, especially the money. We appreciate it. All right. Our investors made valuable contributions. So how do we create more pathways for them to contribute? All right. And I think that should be a bottom-up process. If these are people who have invested in us, if these are people who consider us to be, you're the premier resource for Black graduate students, right? If they're coming to us saying that there's something that we have to offer them, how can we make sure that they're contributing something to the process, right? Like if one thing that I've been learning a lot more about in community organizing is you turn people off when you go into their neighborhood and treat them like they don't know where they're from, right? So if I come to your campus and I try to tell you how to do things, why wouldn't I ask you about your perspective? So how can we create those types of pathways where we can help people build on their own strengths? And then when we're not there any longer, they're still empowered to make things happen. Okay? So that's pretty much what's all been inside of here. What's all been really difficult to communicate clearly and effectively with what we talked about yesterday. This is a lot of all of that in the nutshell. And what I want to do right now real quick. How much time do we have? 48. Okay, about 7. Cool. We're on I'm sorry, we're on, we're not even on numbers yet. Right. Day 2. I'm sorry, we're going by so, we're going by the revision, yeah. The only reason you want to look at the cardinal is for you get a revision? No, you didn't get it. It's, yeah, we passed it out when, we passed it out here. Yeah, so do we have any extras? Well, that makes so much sense. All right. I got you, Mark. Okay. So what I want to do right now, though, I want to give an opportunity for people who are here to really help out that really help out with that plan process. That's really, Machine, my man Mike, Dr. T. Y'all have anything that I missed out on or anything that's wrong with like add or really add to what I do?
From what was discussed yesterday?
Sure.
One of the things that I got from yesterday is and I think Willie said this actually, link students wanting NBGSA is the organization that links students to opportunity and not just the information was one of the things that came out of yesterday. Another thing that came out of yesterday was looking at ways to formalize NBGSA more, and some ideas came up around that, as well as making the organization more sustainable as people flow in and out of the organization. Kind of the main things that I got.
So sustainability,
Opportunity.
and linking people to opportunities. Did I miss it?
Just formalizing.
Anyone else?
Also, you that you're trying to get away from, which is true, not just holding a conference, but being a substantial organization. I'm probably repeating the same thing, but yeah.
So not just being the conference, but
Moving away from conference being, the only, not the only thing that the organization can stand on, but being a full-fledged organization.
Anyone else?
Yeah, at some point you mentioned connection, the importance of connection, and some suggestions were given around that, like maybe having Founders Day and having the summit, and so that to bring people together again without, not just for the conference, for the purposes of doing.
So we also talked about, some ideas that were given were around bringing people together more often over the course of the year, and then a way to also honor our founders and create that connection to the past, the present, and also the future. So we talked about one of the suggestions that was made was having Founders Day, also leadership summit, and finding ways to kind of bring our chapters and other organizations and leaders in and outside of the NBGSA. So yeah, was that pretty much it? Willie, do you have anything to say? Did you say your hand up?
No, I didn't want to.
Ooh, all right, so right now we actually have about 10 minutes until the day. So because we had a reschedule, we're going to anybody have any day two? Here you go. Okay. Oh, my bad. Okay. All right. All right. So right now it is 9:25 or 10:25. So 10:35, David is supposed to go, but we actually we're going to have to move the, well, basically switch number 1 and number 2. No, we didn't just do number 1. What we did was day 1 review takeaways and bring forth. Okay. So they were supposed to go at 10:35. We also started an hour late today. So switch number 1 and 2. I think now will be a good time also to kind of so, all right, so we're about to start number 2 in a few minutes. We're gonna do our presentation on conference related stuff. So just to give you all a bit of a background, like you all have heard so far, we've been very conference oriented. We've been very conference oriented organization for a while. That's actually how we started. We're gonna get into some NBGSA history in a little bit, but we wanna begin now to explore our identity, and we want to just focus on the conference, or is that something that we're doing? But the direction that we've been moving in, because that's the question we've been grappling with for a while. The direction that we're moving in is becoming more of a conference, more than just a conference. And so, since David has been on the board, David Federer has been on the board for several years, and she's been one of the actually, she's helped establish some continuity with them and between executive boards, and that was a large part of why our conference experience was so awesome last year. Would everyone agree with that? So we've been talking to her about doing some contract work and making her our event planner for NBGSA. So we talked about her being the point person for our regional conferences, our national conferences, and also helping us plan with recording meetings as well. So what she's going to do now is talk about the work that she's been doing, because as it stands, she's already been doing some of the planning for this year's conference. And then kind of stood over from her position from last year, but we want to really clarify what her role and what her responsibilities are going to be moving forward. So she'll present her plans, she'll present her proposal, to present what she's been doing so far, and then provide an opportunity for feedback. So that's what's going to happen at 10:35. We have about 5 minutes. So what we can do in that time, I think it'd be helpful to kind of like just, if y'all have a few concerns that you all typed out before, we can like hit on 1 or 2. And so yeah, is there anything that, because before I said, right out the complaints and concerns, so y'all remember that? Yeah, all right. So this will be a time to hear from like 1 or 2 people about some of the stuff that they've experienced that they don't want to experience again. So anyone can go ahead. Oh, last thing. Sight. Got it. So there's actually the last thing is really good. That's it. Yeah, I'm like, that's okay. I be like some just like us, huh? So yeah, go ahead, Bridget.
I have a planning background, so a lot of stuff is about planning meetings and stuff like that. And just setting deadlines further out, so that you can be willing to get to take time for adjustments and fixing hiccups, which naturally comes to the next plan. So if everything is done by a certain time, then prior to we already itineraries were set out, so a lot of other things that have already been done. So when the questions come in, it's easier to answer questions because everything's already planned, everything's already put together. And then any time after that, like I said, we reserve to answer questions and handle anybody that pick up the incident. And also accommodations should be convenient and affordable for traveling graduate students with limited budget. So independent locations, although fun, expensive locations are going to travel to, but they're not the most practical thing for the membership base. We keep them at a line. Smaller cities may not be willing to go to where they are less expensive, or maybe park outside, or maybe
from an event plan perspective, it's really important for us to begin to plan everything further out so that we have more time to adjust. And as we come up and also give everyone more time to plan accordingly. And give some flexibility as well. And then also keep in mind, like, really, this is think about like where people are, how much resources people have to spend. Right. And also the time that people
when planning meetings with conferences and you use a college campus, allow the campus resource to be the primary option, not the backup option. So if the housing, as far as like the dorms, if that is the primary option, I know that people probably will want for that. Because it's cheaper than we all live in one place and stuff like that. So just allow, just use the resources that you have and try to use the cheaper resources first. And then let the more expensive resources do the things that you do if the other things fall through. Does that make sense? So just try to make sure things the most economical for everybody because we are students and yeah. And that's it.
Hopefully, we can come out of meeting place. If it's not looking to be about it. So we
have people who come in, so
hotel needs to be within 2 miles of meeting place. And if not, something should be provided for. Because I didn't come in with any money for education. I'm thinking that we're be able to walk to the place we need to do that. And I've been still walking out. Because we're almost 5 miles away from the hotel.
sure.
You know what I mean? So that's it's imperative to me.
So you said within 2 miles of the meeting space.
Within 2 miles, I can walk 2 miles. I'm fine. But 5.5.
I think some other people might be like it needs to be 1 mile.
Right.
Yeah. Or maybe half a mile. Yeah. I got you. Sure. And then if there is a need for transportation, that should either be explained up front or really you said provided. You said y'all need to take care of it.
But explain the front what you have. I'm saying I'm going to walk off the street now.
Right. So just clear expectations.
Yeah.
Really important. Okay. Cool. So it's we got a minute till David goes on, so I want to make sure everything's good with her. And then no, not mute you. Unmute. Yes.
The T person help you with some of this.
Yes.
And the reason why I say that that's a way to get him involved in this. And it also keeps you connected with your audience because what you're doing with your group, what you're doing, and it's not a complaint, it's just an observation. Every time you walk away from your group, you're walking away, and you have to go back and say, okay, did I miss anything? And so your back is continuing, you know it's there for us, there's people moving through. Your back is to your group. You've made an effort to get here. Like,
It's not a
right, and part of it is not your fault. It's everybody okay? It's got 1 minute left. I do a lot of cleaning. I do a lot of this kind of stuff. And so we're going to talk about some things that I want to have to change in order to be to be in support. They say we can talk to you. Most of us have been out of that discussion. Yeah.
It hasn't been just we're not. You're right. It hasn't been the majority.
Like I said, the more supportive and I think that's part of the reason why some of these advisors stay away. And it's because of the misunderstanding amongst us as a what we should do. In terms of all over to the students. continue to pay, like this weekend cost about $3,000. And I'm hearing things like the rest of the people. So you and I are gonna have to communicate so I can be more supportive.
I'm down. I'm definitely down.
Hey, Greg.
Need some help, man.
They don't have like.
Hey, are you familiar with Hangouts? Are you familiar with Hangouts at all?
I know of it.
Okay. Okay. Hold on.
It's like a mandatory app on my computer.
Okay. Hey, I muted you, but I can't unmute you, so I might have to re-invite you. Or can you log out? Yeah. Yeah, just log out. Oh, you can. Okay, bet. That's even better.
Hello, can you hear me?
All right. Hey, quit your talk.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, Dava.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. And then if you have any questions, just let me know. Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Sounds okay.
Yeah, so it's already up. So what you have to do is click on the other screen. And then just click from there. And then she's gonna need some other documents. And so
I don't know how to work this screen sharing thing, so
do it on our end.
okay.
Tell me to switch you.
Yeah, that's what's going on. So, you're just gonna hear her and we're gonna see her presentation. And then you can see that. All right, bear with us. Almost got it together. All right, so then, David, what documents do you need?
The one that you have open.
Are you gonna need the other two?
No, not. I don't think so.
Okay, well I got them if you need them.
Okay.
David, did you send this to everybody?
Who is it? I can't hear.
No, but I'll forward everything over.
Are y'all ready for me?
Yeah. Well,
Oh. Well, hello, everybody.
hey.
All right. I'm sorry I couldn't be there this weekend. I had a family trip planned, so I couldn't make it. But I did want to be able to share the work that I've been doing since the conference with everyone. Part of my I guess my last responsibilities before the transition was to get us kind of squared away in terms of the 2016 annual conference. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Also, I think as John mentioned a little bit earlier, we've been in conversations in terms of contract work for event management and planning services moving forward. So I'll discuss that a little bit as well, and then get some feedback from you guys, and then we'll talk about the timeline and next steps. So overall, I've been working with Kenneth. Hopefully, all of you saw the, and I'm sure he's going to talk about it a little bit later as well. He sent out a call for proposals. A call for themes and a call for conference committee members. So he has kind of taken the lead on those things while I've been trying to finalize our conference location and dates. So we looked at a number of cities, and you can go ahead to the third slide, the city and hotel considerations. This year we were supposed to be in the West. So we considered Las Vegas, San Francisco, Phoenix, and San Diego. All of these cities, we talked about those of you guys from the old board who are there. Remember that as we were talking about them, many of them were very expensive. And they had like $50,000, $35,000 food and beverage minimums. Some of their room rates were, especially like the California locations, were in the 200s. The Las Vegas ones were like 189, 179, so on and so forth. And they had really high food and beverage minimum. So that's when I talked to John about opening up our search um, to Texas cities, because that's, a little bit further west than we've been in recent years. However, it will be another concern that board members and others expressed was the distance and the cost of travel to those particular locations for not only members, but not only for board members, but for our our members as well. So we consider Texas. The cities that we considered in Texas were Dallas, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, and Corpus Christi. We also explored Texas because the Omni, which we had our hotel at last year, their headquarters is in Texas. And since we had such a good rapport and relationship with them, with our past conference, we considered sending out internal RFP to other Omni properties, so that we can kind of get that the same contract and whatnot that we did at the Omni Jacksonville. So we sent out RFPs to those 5 cities in Texas. Dallas was particularly expensive. Austin was slightly expensive. We couldn't get room rates below like 159, which is kind of high for our members as well. So we ended up going with Houston because we got that was the largest number of feasible proposals that we received. So we narrowed it down to 3 properties: the JW Marriott in GW at the airport, the GW Bush Airport, the JW Marriott at the Houston Galleria, and the Omni at the Houston West Side. So this past week, Danielle Paris, who is our closest board member geographically to that region, conducted the site visits at those 3 hotels. And I do want to make sure that, we all express our thank you to Danielle for, bearing her own expense to get there, as well as, taking up her day and visiting all these hotels. It was also terrible weather there during that time. So she had a modicum of difficulty traveling through the city and so on and so forth. So I do want to make sure that I acknowledge, her efforts and whatnot, as well in visiting those 3 properties. So overall, as far as the site visits were concerned, the Marriott at the airport location was under heavy construction. Um, they will not be finished. Will not be ready to open until about September. So we kind of ruled them out altogether because we don't want to sign any contracts with anybody until after we're able to see what they're able to offer. This would have been like the most ideal location because it's actually like there's a tram that goes from the major airport in Houston directly to the hotel. So transportation to from the airport to the hotel would not have been a problem at all. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful hotel, but it's like a hard hat only kind of area right now. So it's just kind of not something that we want to sign off on without knowing exactly what it's going to look like and so on and so forth. The other 2 properties, the Houston Galleria and the Omni West Side, were relatively close to one another. Both of them are about 20 to 25 miles away from the largest airport. The Omni Houston is a little bit closer to the a smaller regional Houston airport. So both of them are about in the same location. The Houston Galleria is next to the Galleria, like it's like a shopping area. So location wise, that one is a good one. It's like a high end shopping area. If any of you guys have been to Houston, I'm sure you're familiar with that area. It's right across the street from that location. And the Omni Houston is about 7 minutes from there. Both of them are about the same distance from that the Omni Jacksonville was from the Jacksonville hotel, because that was about 20 to 25 miles away as well. That is basically the only the distance from the airport, the only major challenge that we were able to see as far as either of the hotels go. In terms of the hotel contracts and whatnot, The more favorable contract is the Omni Houston West Side, and I think that's the more favorable property. So I'm going to talk about that one the most today. You can go to the next slide, and please stop me if you guys have any questions or anything like that along the way. If you're not close to the computer, just speak loudly so that I can hear you. So in terms of conference logistics, the Omni Houston West Side, based on our the past conferences that we've done, is kind of the most in line with what we're accustomed to. They're offering us the dates of March 16th through the 20th, which is the Wednesday through the Sunday. The board would be there from like the 13th. We have the entire week, the 13th through the 20th. The theme is to be determined by the 2016 VP conference and the conference committee. Some of the concessions, some of the things that they're offering us, you can scroll to the next slide. There's a lot of information on the slide, so I'll go over everything in detail. Thank you. The room rate that they're offering right now, well, right now they've sent us a rough draft contract, and that was one of the documents that I sent John today, and he'll forward that to you guys so that you can read through it as well. But these are just some of the highlights from the contract. The standard room rate would be $109 with the $79 staff rate. The total room nights are 300 with 80%, with us requiring to meet at least 80% of that, which is 240. Our food and beverage minimum would be 20%, and 80% of that would be 16,000. Just to give you some perspective, we had those same numbers last year. Our food and beverage minimum last year was a little bit lower. However, we actually ended up spending about $29,000 in food and beverage, so that's way above the 16,000. We don't anticipate having any problems meeting the $16,000 minimum. Also, our total room nights last year, we ended up close to selling out. I think we were at like 285 room nights. So again, and we did have we had lower attendance on the room nights because more people kind of drove in and left, because of the location of the hotel, and many people stayed off site because they had family in the area and so on and so forth. So we were able to meet our room block as well without any problems. So we don't anticipate that being any issues. The concessions that they're offering are very similar to last year. Again, we're still in the process of negotiations, but these are the ones that they're offering thus far. The complimentary 2-bedroom presidential suite is the same like what we had last year that John and I shared, with the 1-bedroom, with the 2 bedrooms on either side, with the king and the doubles and the parlor in the middle. They're offering us a double connector at a standard rate, so I'm still working with them to get that completely comped. They're offering an additional complimentary premier king room, 2 complimentary room nights for a meeting planner as well as a technical person for Thursday and Friday nights. We're still working with them to get their room nights for the duration of the stay complimentary. We get 1 complimentary room night per 40 rooms, which typically goes to our speakers and special guests that we have. We get complimentary meeting room rental with 80% of our room block and food and beverage minimum met. Complimentary wireless internet in the guest room is standard. We also get a rate of $495 for discounted wireless internet in our meeting spaces. Complimentary wireless internet for our planning room on select devices that we can choose. 5 conference or staff guest rooms at the $79 rate, 10 board upgrades, 20 complimentary tables. We're able to host our October and January quarterly meetings there. And we're negotiating the rate for those. Once you guys are able to let us know the exact weekends that those will be, we'll be able to negotiate the rate at the standard room rate or below. A 10% commission to our designee. Last year, in the past, our designee has been walk-on executive management. So we have room where we can decide whom the 10% commission on the room rate on the rooms will go to. So if you guys decide for it to go to the organization itself, to your event planner or whatever, whomever it is that's going to be doing this work, the work for over the next year, we can include that in the contract as well. There's discounted valet parking. There's also complimentary self parking for all guests because the property is fairly large, as well. And there is no charge to bring in our own audio visual. So those are just all of the concessions that we have negotiated thus far. We're still in the process. This is kind of like the first round of negotiations. So we do have to go through a little bit more. So we are, some of the things I'm definitely going to be working on are to get both of the rooms as well as the double connector in the presidential suite comp to us. The comp rooms for the meeting planner and the technical person. Last year, that was Charles. So we got his room comped last year. So if we choose to go with Walk On again, like whomever it is that we choose to work with, we'll have those rooms available. The VP conference and the president always get their room taken care of for the course of the week. And then we also have the board. Yeah, so those are things. And then the other things are kind of standard what we've had in past years. Does anybody have any questions or anything like those concessions?
You got a couple questions.
So you
first.
you all actually
Come over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can hear slightly, can't you? Can you
Talking
hear?
to the mic.
Oh, or is that Marcus that's close to the computer?
No, that's Greg.
Oh, Greg. If you can kind of repeat the question because I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, it's there.
So that you can hear.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so my question was kind of like I guess you could say an open question, just something that's rolling around in my mind as we look at what it means to be National Black Graduate Student Association in terms of where our money circulates with and who we do business with and how do we want to position ourselves to develop partnerships over a longer time, and we want to increase membership in certain places. And I know that there's a site called NABHO where there's a National Association of Black-owned hotels and resorts. And I wonder if, how should we be intentional about that when we're spending thousands of dollars? Should we be intentional about spending thousands of dollars with Black people? And how are we going to do things differently than other graduate student associations as it relates to that is a question. NABHO, I could send you the link. So that's just kind of like a open question. And also when we look at not only things like NABHO, but as well as having more situations where we are going to colleges and having more colleges host us, like if we are being intentional about not only increasing membership and setting ourselves apart and saying who we are, and if we're having Black in that name, like what exactly does that mean? Other than most of us are Black. That's it.
Did you hear that, Dave?
Yes. Is that? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Is that question directed towards me in terms of the conference selection for this year?
I think that was for everybody. I got a question for you now.
Okay. Well, I guess I can just answer in terms of conference selection for this year. That was not a focus this year. This year, considering our financial situation, we were kind of focused on which one would be the best financially for our organization. So I guess in moving forward, I definitely agree that that's something that we could be considering moving forward. But for this year, that was not the consideration. And then also time, what the time crunch, I guess, was also a major consideration as well. So properties and whatnot that can house us within the window of weeks that we had outlined in our RFP. Those are the only ones that we kind of have been able to do business with. And just in general, how the process works. We kind of, as a board, decide on cities, and then we send our RFP to the Bureau of Tourism for that particular city, and they send the RFPs out to all of their properties that have the capacity to house us based on our meeting space requirements. And then if those hotels are able to accommodate our dates, our our room rate requests, and so on and so forth, then they submit bids for our business, and then we kind of move forward from there. So that's the way that we've kind of been operating on things. As far as whether those, I'm certain that any hotel within a particular city, whether they're Black owned or not, they're included in that. In sending out to all of the properties that they're within that particular city. So they have the opportunity to bid for our business as well. If they're located within that city, and they do have the appropriate meeting space accommodations. But have we gone out and specifically, targeted Black owned or operated, hotels and properties? No, we have not. That has not been our focus. Our focus has primarily been financial.
And in response to that question too, I think that as we really begin to design what we want this whole thing to look like and be like and feel like in the future, and what I mean is, like, as we talk about what NBGSA identity is going to be moving forward, that's something that should be included in the conversation. And that's something that we have discussed up until this point. So I think, like we talked about writing things down, and I can make sure we keep adding to that pot over time. That's something that we, in order to make it official, we probably should consider writing into like our standard operating procedures or some type of protocol around it, to where this is just an idea or a suggestion, but yeah, like first and foremost, we look for Black owned and operated businesses, and when that then we go elsewhere, like that type of language. So is that sufficient?
Yeah.
And then also just to add to that, if I could, that is also something that as the conference planner from last year, that I did focus on all of our vendors that we used were all Black, small Black owned businesses from that city or nearby cities. So that was a focus, like, even the people that we rented the red carpets from and all those things. Those were small. Our photographer, the person who did our printing, and those types of services that we had, those additional vendor services, our audiovisual, things like that. Those are all small Black owned business. And that's something that I did make a priority last year when we settled on the city and whatnot. But it definitely wasn't a consideration in, overall in choosing the actual hotel site. But it is a consideration, and I think it's an important one, especially. And I think, as John said, that it would be a good idea for for that to be, written somewhere, that is going to be a practice, and moving forward, at least making the effort to employ, Black owned businesses wherever possible.
Dave, are we wedded to having our our quarterly meetings at the hotel? Is that a part of the contract?
Yes, it is a part of the contract. So right now, we're able to host the October 2015 and January quarterly there. They're just waiting on the dates from us so that we can negotiate the room rate. And also included in the contract is our meeting space rental for those meetings is waived.
Can we remove it from the contract to quarterly meetings?
I'm sorry?
Can we remove from the contract the 2 quarterly meetings?
What do you mean remove from it? Like, you don't want to have your quarterly meetings there?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
So I think the question is along the lines of, how would it impact the contract negotiations if we remove that from the contract? And the idea is create opportunities for us to build relationships in communities and also at the schools in the locations that we're traveling to.
I mean, it wouldn't affect the contract at all to remove it. I'm just a little leery about removing it though. Just from the from an organizational standpoint.
Yeah, what are some of your concerns with doing that?
With moving it from I think that there are relationships that we need to build, especially within those cities, because it's easiest for those people, to attend the conference as well. And then it's also important for us to have, because we only have 2 quarterly meetings left before the national conference. In planning last year's conference, I don't know what I would have done if I was not in that space for October and January. I don't know how feasible it would have been or how, we would have been able to, because it's also important for us to build relationships with the hotel staff, the sales manager, so on and so forth. Like a lot of things that we were able to get and run smoothly and whatnot was because we had such, frequent contact with the sales department, and so on and so forth. One of our major sponsors from last year came from that geographic area. The University of North Florida was a major sponsor who sent a number of students to us as well, undergrad as well as graduate students. I think the purpose of having the quarterly meeting there is to establish those relationships within the city that the conference is going to be taking place. So if the first time that we're there, well, I think we definitely have to have the January. So if we're only talking about October, if the only meeting that we're there is in January and we're having the October one in a different location, I think that it would be challenging for us to develop the depth of relationship that we need to in time for a March meeting. That's just my experience.
I was saying that I think that this is definitely a topic that does require more exploration. But now, I think this is one of those things, like this is going to carry over from the way we've been doing things. Like we've had the quarterlies and we've had the national events all at the same place for a number of reasons, like you said. But if that is something that we want to change for next year, this is what I think. Then I think we should definitely continue doing how it is right now, and then plan to make things move differently next year. Because in all honesty, it's June, and we don't have the contract signed, and we don't officially have a meeting place. So if that's personal, I think we should just move in as much as we can and do as much as we can to get the contract stuff official. And if there are more minor things, maybe we can consider that. But I feel like this is a pretty big consideration for us to try to think about with the limited amount of time and resources that we have right now. But that's my take on it. Yeah.
I have a question as to what's the rationale for not hosting the quarterly meetings at the conference location?
Yeah.
Well, we already voted at the conference for the amendment to host quarterly meetings at various facilities along the geographical route to the annual conference for the academic year. And the rationale behind that amendment was to build conference awareness and participation in various areas leading toward the annual meeting. So I don't think we're saying right now you're not, but that just, I think he was just trying to make sure it was okay to explore that option, to have it for cost reasons, for travel, for things like that, to try to make it affordable for. We spent, if you look at our travel alone this past year, we spent almost $30,000 for NBGSA. So I think this as a cost saving measure, not to take anything away from what we did, because I think being at the conference site did help. But I also think that, that's what with it being in Houston and with it being the current DP's home city, I think it would be probably beneficial for his planning committee to go to the site and just up for, discussion amongst the board as far as actually quarterly meetings at the hotel. Can we be in Houston? Yes. Do we have to be at the conference site? No. Can we go visit the conference site if he needs us to? Yes. I think that's good. That was my thing.
So it's Texas Southern, Texas Southern is in Houston?
Yeah, that's something. And University of Houston.
Okay, so for you, one of the things that was really important to consider was, you know, that there's a lot of economic impact for us to have quotas at the hotel. And then also, there's an opportunity to, right, there's not enough organization. The reason that we're okay, who is this?
Well, we're still on the same topic.
We're still on the same topic, right? So if we're timing in on this, let's get a few, right? Because we really have about 30 more minutes for this. So let's get a few more comments on this particular topic, maybe like 2-3 tops, and try to make them as concise as possible. Because as Black people, we struggle with brevity. I'm including in that. I'm like, and there's a tendency. Everybody doesn't do it all the time. All right, but who is? What Dr. said? Were you next?
David?
I'm sorry, somebody call my name?
Yeah, this is Dr. Taylor, and it's always good to hear from you. And
Tatum.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. And as always, you always clarify questions that I have, and I can see you've done a lot of hard work. I think part of the discussion, from what I can gather, and having been here yesterday and today, I think it's a question of transition. And there's some discussion, there's been a lot of discussion this time about how we as an organization can give back to the community and have a different kind of business stance where we're putting out so much money repeatedly over the years to hotels and other entities that really don't give back to us. And so I think that's part of the discussion. While John was talking to the group, I had a kind of a quick meeting with Willie, and I was saying that I think eventually the organization, not necessarily this year, but eventually the organization might need to go back to having the whole conference on university campuses, where everything, including housing, the different sessions, can be housed on the campus. And some of that change came about, the one time that did happen, some of that came about when the organization moved from being a student-ran organization to where there was a different kind of structure to the organization. So I think eventually, maybe we can look at it as an organization. I'm saying this for everybody in the room, new and old, or new and returning, that maybe at some point we can all go back. We can go back to doing the whole thing on the university campus, like Howard and Grambling, where they can have facilities to have meetings and breakout sessions and things. But this time, I think it's probably going to need to be as it is.
That's fine.
For the next college campus, like cheaper than the college campus, and then you could take a drive over to.
Right, yeah. And there was discussion yesterday about that too. It wasn't, I mean, don't feel like this is a comment to your comment, but no, we've discussed this before. How can we, how can we be more financially, how can we operate in a more financially feasible way with students in mind? Because it's not just students that are affected. I mean, that's the board. I can tell you the advisors. I mean, I would love to stay on campus because of the time, so I feel you on that. Yeah. So that's not just okay.
You're going to anyone else? You might have to be there.
No, I was just reiterating, I do agree with January needing to be in the
city, so that when the people that come to the conference, what's there to do? We are going, they go there, we already tried out this place, this. I do think because we did change the Constitution to allow for us not to be in the conference like we'll be in Houston 3 times in 6 months. Versus we could go to Louisiana, which is en route to Atlanta en route and grab those HBCUs that are in those cities, especially like Atlanta, grabbing Morehouse, Clark, Spelman, all of that, or New Orleans and grabbing all of those. So I definitely agree with it.
All right, David.
Yes.
So what would it look like if we were to do the October quarterly somewhere else, but then do the January quarterly in Houston? You know, if we decide to do everything that way, how would that look? How would that change things? How would that make things more difficult? What challenges would that present for you and Kenneth as the people who are over the conference and most responsible for making it a great conference?
Well, I think first and foremost, if the October quarterly is not going to be at the site, then, the organization is going to have to make way for the conference planner, Kenneth, and members of his team to get to the conference site, because in terms of like agenda planning and whatnot, he needs to be able to see the site and make those types of decisions before in order to make like agenda changes and room changes and those types of things, and that has to take place before January, because if we need to bring in different make different arrangements and so on and so forth in terms of rooming and room meeting space assignments and rooming and stuff like that. He and whatever members of his team is over programming, they definitely need to be in the space by October, because the agenda really should be finalized way before then. But I mean, we will be able to slide if it wasn't finalized until October. So the organization, so if the quarterly meeting is not going to take place there, then some members of the conference planning team, whoever's over programming, including the and as well as the chair, the VP conference, would definitely need to be there at some point, and as well to meet the sales staff and to develop that relationship, because it's so important in moving forward. So that would be I think the most important thing. And then being that we're already responsible for paying, the board is already responsible for paying their own way to the October quarterly. I'm sure that the organization would need to sponsor the VP conference, those meetings to take place, that travel there, because that would just be a lot during the course of one semester for a given student. In terms of the contract, it wouldn't affect the contract at all. I don't foresee it, posing like I don't foresee us losing, any concessions or anything like that, because we choose not to host the October meeting there. I also think that if we choose to have it someplace else for these reasons, outside of it just being more economical, I think that we need to definitely be intentional about the contacts that we're making there, and that if we're hosting a mixer, that if we're hosting activities and whatnot, like there needs to be meetings scheduled with the BGSAs of that area, deans of graduate departments and so on. Like if we're going to do that, then we definitely need to make the most of that opportunity, and not just as we have in the past, go to that city, schedule a mixer and hope that people show up and try to and then say that we made that impact. Like we definitely need to make an impact and make those connections and those networking, and there needs to be in that particular city, so that the only reason that we're going there is not just a purely it's more convenient for the board.
Okay, cool. So this is definitely a topic that a lot of people seem to have some opinions about. And I think that if there, how many people have something that they would like to chime in with on this? Are we, okay, so nobody has nothing else to say. We're not gonna talk about this ever again. Right, so this is what I'm asking for right now. As far as this being a point that we can put down and move forward versus something that we're going to have to revisit, this is something that we definitely have to revisit, right?
And when we say revisit, we're just talking about the location of the Octoberly quarter, of the October quarterly.
Yeah, basically that is what we're talking about. We're deciding whether or not we want to have that in Houston or somewhere else. That's the conversation at this point that we're going to have at some point over the course of the weekend, not necessarily right now.
Okay.
Is it about this?
It is, well,
Okay, so wherever we are, that's wherever we are. Sure. Okay. Okay, and is it about this? Okay, yeah.
Because we have connections at the Southern,
Okay,
we have connections at U of H,
sure.
we have connections at school. So we can definitely make
Build some relationship. Sure.
and not just sit in the room looking at stuff. Instead of just school those.
So get out and about and do something and not just be in a conference. Wherever we are, we just don't need to be in a hotel room or wherever.
Yeah,
All day. Okay. Cool. So what I actually, I feel like we're at a point where we can move on to a different topic. But I have it in my notes for us to explore this because it sounds like too, whatever we do, we need to talk about the plan. We don't just need to be like, we just don't need to say, okay, we're not gonna go to Houston, we're gonna go to somewhere else without also exploring what that would look like. So yeah, we'll talk more about that. So what you had a question?
Yes, I have a question about, hi David, this is not her. I have a question about this.
This is who? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I can't hear you.
My question is about this slide in particular. I know that when we went to the conference last year, some of these very same internet complementary words were used, and they didn't really work out too well. So I was wondering if there's any possible way that there could be hard lines written into this, and there could be the complementary part could be taken out, and we could actually pay for good internet, because that was a very big problem at the conference. I think that was one of the biggest things, is the fact that we didn't have access to the internet when we needed it, and some of the internet that we had access to wasn't strong enough to suffice what we were trying to do with it. So that was my question.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. That's a really good point. So the issues that we experienced last year was in part because of the system, the computer hardware that were being used could not get Wi-Fi access. So that was an issue because we were using very old hardware, computers and whatnot. So that was the first issue. The second issue was that the complimentary access that we were given, we didn't pay for, for any of the, the little the code that we were given. They were just kind of giving that to us as a favor to us. So it was supposed to be for limited access, and then some individuals got a hold of it, and it just kind of went to everybody and anybody who had, people's cell phones and all this other stuff like that. So as a result of that, I guess the connectivity, rates and whatever, it started getting slower. So then we started to experience problems in that regard. As far as what we have here, last year I did not negotiate the contract. That was negotiated by our event management company at that point. So we were told that we had we weren't told that we had to pay for internet. We were told that we had complimentary internet in all of our meeting spaces, and that was not the case. So when we came on site, there was a tremendous amount of problems with our technical issues, with our technical equipment and all of that stuff all together. So that is why we negotiated for the as you see, the $4.95 for the discounted wireless internet for each device. So that's something that we actually will be paying for. The rate is much higher than, I think it's like $20 each. We're actually paying for that. So that should eliminate, and that's one code for one device. So we'll get whatever bandwidth and whatever we need. So we shouldn't have any problems with that whatsoever. And then also they're giving us complimentary wireless internet on select devices. So we would have to tell them, okay, this computer, we have these two computers. I believe it's two computers in our registration area and like two computers in our planning area. And then we can kind of move forward from there. Also, we intend on using much, much, much more updated equipment that can actually handle Wi-Fi than we used last year. So we don't anticipate that being a problem. But I'm thinking that I'm talking to Greg, right? Because I couldn't hear who said it was them. Greg, this is you who asked the question.
Yeah, I'm the one.
Okay. So Greg, so that's something that we definitely want for you, and if you guys choose to work with me, or if you choose to continue go with another company, that you should definitely be involved in that conversation, and then in that selection of those whoever is going to be our AV technical provider, to make sure that those kind of loose ends are taken care of. So that we don't have the issues that we had last year, because that was horrible.
It sounds like you made a lot of different improvements. The only thing that I would say on top of that is to make sure, not only wireless, you need to make sure that access to hard lines or VPNs or landline internet, so we can plug a cord into a computer that doesn't have to use wireless or Wi-Fi. The two different options would probably make it to where we wouldn't have any problem. That's all I would say.
Okay, no problem. I'll talk to them about adding some of those and finding out the possibility for those things and the cost.
Cool. Thank you. So we have about 15 minutes left on this topic, and we haven't talked about regional conference planning, the role that you play in that. But I know there are a few other comments. So what I want to do is at this point, like, switch your questions to a comment, and it's something that she'll take note of, we'll take note of, and we'll fix it later if you have any more questions. Okay.
Question or comment?
If you have a question, turn to a comment. And this is something I thought of. Consider this, please move forward. Yeah.
Send the people the agreement that we have.
Everyone's gonna get this first and foremost, and you can make critiques if needed. But you said the $4.95.
Oh, you talking about Davis? He's talking about Davis.
Can you write that down, please? Right down.
He was referring to the contract that the organization has with Davis.
Yeah, everything is gonna be sent to everybody. Everyone's gonna have everything. This is anything related to anything we talked about the conference so far.
We got to get past slide 3.
Yep.
We got to get past slide 3.
Because this is just, since we have 14 minutes now for this particular topic, we just need to hit on the essentials real quick. So yeah, write your question down, and look, y'all said same thing which I did earlier. Type those up and email them. Same thing, include this on the list of things that we did before we started. All right, so David, can you hit on the regional stuff?
Sure. Well, I just wanted to wrap this up real quick. The only thing that we have is just a timeline and next steps slide that I wanted to show you guys. It's like the last one in this. Whoever's operating the PowerPoint. Just in terms of timeline, because we need to move forward with things. So the idea is to finalize a contract and sign by June 25th. and to confirm the conference committee and select the theme by the end of this weekend, because I talked to Kenneth and he was talking about working on those things this weekend as well. For those of you guys who are on the conference committee, launching the website and announcing the conference dates and locations and save the dates and all that stuff by July 1st, and launching the marketing and PR campaigns also by July 1st. So we're talking about doing, you know, a large number of things within a good 2-week period of time, just so that we don't delay any more, and so that we can get the word out, and at least people locking the conference and location in on their respective calendars. So that's that. That's as far as the timeline and whatnot is concerned. So I guess we don't have time for questions about that. So I will just move forward. I believe John sent out the proposal that I sent to NBGSA in terms of roles and responsibilities of meeting planning, the event management services, as well as the regional planning services, the regional representative responsibilities. So you guys should have that already. Do they have that already, John? Hello? I can't hear you guys.
Yeah, they got it.
Okay.
They got it. Yeah, they got it.
Okay.
I will. So
All right. So in terms of, so if you go to page 6, that speaks about regional rep responsibilities versus my meeting and events company responsibilities. In the beginning of the proposal, like I outlined exactly what each one of these bullet points means in detail. So you can kind of refer back and forth to those things. But just an overview in a nutshell, like the regional representatives are responsible for kind of like the full planning and organizing of their conference. The additional services that we would provide would be any contract negotiations and securing of like hotels that you have for out of town guests, any food or, you know, any food, lodging, you know, meals, catering, any outside vendors that you might desire to bring in, whether it be with instruction, LCD projectors, audiovisual, any type of media technology, assisting with conference amenities and materials. So if you desire to do t-shirts or conference bags, program booklets, you know, those types of things, we will be able to assist you in securing vendors, you know, at reasonable prices, and doing the research and whatnot that's necessary for those as well. We've already begun to develop relationships with different companies that we've been especially Black-owned companies that we've been using, who will give, you know, our organization discount for continued businesses and for continued business as well. So we'll kind of like coordinate those things to get us the lowest rates possible within a timely manner. But as far as, you know, selecting the themes, the locations, and all that stuff, those the overview of the programming, selecting speakers, all of those things will still be the responsibility of the regional representative. We would just be taking some of the burden off of them in terms of just being an extra pair of hands to do the legwork in terms of securing vendors and negotiating pricing and things of that nature. So hopefully that clarifies the distinction between the roles and responsibilities.
all right, thank you.
Are there any questions as far as that's concerned? I know we have regional reps that are there.
Right. So we have 9 minutes left, everyone. So keep that in mind.
one question for clarification for the reps. Are you the primary contact person for the, for all of this data, or does it go to somebody else? Just for the sake of the regional conferences.
Yes. Well, am I the primary contact for the regional conference? No, the regional rep would be the primary contact for the regional.
In terms of the plan.
I would kind of like work for them.
So in terms of like who's gonna be talking to the hotels and who's gonna be talking to the specific sites and locations and stuff like that, that's gonna be you, right? You're gonna be like the on the ground kind of person.
Right. I'll be the I'll be the planner. And then they would be the person who it's their event.
Who's they?
The regional reps.
Regional reps will contact, yes, they would. And they would, she's a liaison between all, yeah, that's what would happen. Absolutely. Sure. We need some clarification. If one person did, more people probably did. Anyone else?
So, well, I can give an example if that will help.
Take the example.
Okay, so for example, if like the Southeast Regional reps, because I know them, Genevieve and Kenneth, if they decide, okay, we want to have our conference in Atlanta, so we need to find a hotel, they will contact me and say, hey, David, we need to find a hotel and for our conference that's going to take place October 17th through the 20th. So then I would go and do the research and give them a list of 3 or 4 hotels. These are their rates, blah, blah, blah. You guys tell me what it is that you guys want to do. They decide on the hotel, then I will go ahead and confirm everything with the hotel, any negotiations, any extra things that they may need. And then I will bring that information back to them so that they can concentrate on their regional work in terms of promotion, marketing, campaigning, that kind of stuff. And they don't have to worry about the technical details as far as, is this, a legitimate are we getting, railroaded in this contract? What is our room block? When is our cutoff dates? They don't have to worry about those types of details. They can focus on other activities in terms of their conference planning. Does that make a little bit of sense?
Definitely help to clear things up. And two, with that being said, that means that there are going to have to be some restructuring of the roles for our organization. For instance, regional reps more so focus on recruitment. So is that a responsibility that the VP of membership should be working with, or is that something more that the VP for marketing and outreach should be? So we're going to have some conversations, which we're going to, of course, today, about role clarity. And so that, just make a note of that. Question, Genevieve, did you have a question? Okay, cool. That was amazing. Thank you from Genevieve. Anyone else? Okay. So we got 5 minutes. Oh, cool. This is for everyone.
Yeah, this is for everyone. So the question is, when you say regional conference, sure. Is each person or each region hosting a conference in their region? Am I right about that? Okay. Are those dates already selected? No. Okay. Okay.
Cool. Anything else?
Oh, that was good.
Like you said that.
Have you had that? Has that been done already?
No.
I see.
Right.
Okay.
That needs to happen. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Anything else from anyone else? We have a little less than about 4 minutes. Yeah, about 4 minutes. No, just come to the podium. Just come to the podium. All right, so what we're gonna do now is just use these last few minutes, however, we'll say 5 to 10 minutes because we totally just haven't heard from Kenneth, our VP for conference, and we've been talking about conference for the last hour. So y'all hold on 1 second. We just got look. Okay, so look, y'all, we roughly 5 to 10 minutes for this to close out. So I know we've been sitting for a while. I know we've been doing a lot of listening. So just 5 to 10 more minutes of that, and then we can allow for a break and stretch our legs for a little bit. Are y'all good?
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm having a problem with my list this morning, having a break society. So I'm gonna try to speak as clearly as I can. I do have some pretty big shoes to fill. David did an awesome job last year. Give her a round. But you guys know how I am. I like to take it to the next level. My whole goal this year, I would like for it to be a conference. But have you guys been to Essence Festival? The Steve Harvey's collegiate affair? Expos, right. That's something I want to bring for this year. I really want to get an artist this year to come and perform. Great speakers. We're going to use Texas Southern, Prairie View, and U of H because we're in Texas. But we also need to recruit while we go to the planning meetings. We need to use those times for recruitment. It's the only way we can get those dollars, guys, if those regional conferences are also used for recruitment. So we need those dollars to be to the max, but we're trying to get everybody up here. So that's about it. And again, if you guys have any more ideas for me, we do have one topic. Someone did submit a theme this year. I do have it on my pad, and I will discuss it a little bit later. Those of you who are interested in being with the planning community before you go. Thank you.
Do you have access to the thing right now?
I do.
Yeah, just go ahead and show that.
Would you like to hear the thing?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, is this the proposed theme or is this?
It's a proposal.
Okay.
Yeah. Dave, are you there, honey?
I don't know. She shouldn't have left. She might have stepped away from the computer, but she's definitely still trying.
I'm here.
Okay. Well, this name comes from Megan Hicks. I don't know what school she's from. She submitted a theme as we stand community and contextual factors affecting the African American community. I feel like those things are always hit back. As we stand community and contextual factors affecting the African American community.
As we stand, colon, community,
contextual factors affecting the African American community.
And the headline is as we stand, right?
As we stand. Okay. But here's my question, though. I know this is a fact. Well, you know what? This is something me and my community will go back over today. We talk about the some organizers, programming in the community that is increasing the levels of health, risk, behavior affecting the African American community. Relationships, more family and friends are important contextual influences or individuals. Relationships and interactions between people are very complex, and identifying how these relationships affect individual outcomes of the African American community. So basically, this thing is about relationship building, something I know that John is very aware of, something he focuses on a lot. So again, we have more ideas coming this afternoon. Those of you who want to do submit, please. Thank you.
See, it's not just me. We'll throw that out there.
She heard that.
Okay.
You got that, Dave?
I'm having trouble hearing.
Okay. All right, y'all. So, all right, y'all. We actually ended pretty much on time. Thank you, David.
Yeah, that was Burnside. Yeah, that was Burnside saying that was all me.
And thank you, Burnside, for controlling this chat situation. So, David, we'll be in contact. And Kenneth is going to keep us posted with a lot of stuff that you have going on too.
All right, thanks. I miss you guys.
Good, sweetie.
No. Okay. All right. All right, we're good. So, thank you.
Bye, see you guys later.
Bye.
Ciao.
Okay, so now we're gonna just go ahead and take a break. So 7 minutes, everybody. So it's now, yes. Okay. So 7 minutes from now. 7 minutes from now. 11:48. Okay, cool. So shoot for 11:48. Handle your business. You know, we'll get back to this. 49. Yeah. Okay. 49. 11:49. This one. I want y'all to get all your seconds. All right. 11:49. We start back.
This is my question though.
What's up?
So with her fee that we're paying her, is that gonna cover the cost of the conference?
No.
Or are we paying her just so she can find us places to go? Not that, I mean, the regional conferences. So we're.
No.